guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go with a pretty entertaining email that was sent from a subscriber. That's from a guy. He is in his very late 50s, and he shares his story, or shall I say many stories, of the wisdom he's gained over the decades about the other half. You're going to see how what I talk about in some of these stories I cover are the same no matter where you are in this world, your religion, your background, your culture, or whether it happened decades ago. It's the same freaking thing. And this guy, fortunately, because this guy is a natural alpha and very popular with the ladies, has always had, pretty easy with the gals. And fortunately for him, he was smart enough and had a good selection process that he married a pretty good gal. They've had a good life together, although she's pulled some BS from time to time. And I'm very happy for him. And he's sharing the different things to the young guys out there to help them out in terms of both choosing relationships as well as things to be aware of and all that. And it's pretty cool to hear it's one thing to hear about these types of things from my age group and younger, but when you hear the same things was happening 50 freaking years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, same thing, it definitely backs things up. So that'd be a pretty good one, entertaining one to listen to here from an old school guy. He says, I never wanted to get married, but I'm almost 60 years old and I've been married for 30 years. SSM, I'm ready because you said so. Perhaps a few nuggets from my marital journey will have a value to a few listeners. First of all, I've lived in 5 households of women. And while in college, I once lived in 5 women in a house near campus. I got a few stories. But if I've had any remaining illusions about true female nature, my college days offed each one of them. Perhaps that might be a television show one day, but today I'm writing about my marital journey. Bro, you got to write in about your adventures living with women during college. And this is many decades ago. We could always use more entertainment here. My wife and I have one of those relationships people point to as successful and feminists hate. I'm 3 years older than her, and I'm the breadwinner. She gets part-time jobs on occasion. Intimacy is 3, 4, or 5 times per week. We naturally engage in playful banter inside and outside the house. The way it looks on the outside is the way it is on the inside. Bro, that's great. If you've been married for 30 years and you're still hooking up 3, 4, 5 times a week, that's amazing. There are people that are married a year and now hook up 3, 4 times a month. Because she caters to me like a traditional wife, she is 3 effing his family members about her age have always spoke negatively about her ways. Well, of course, because they're miserable. There are some nice weddings between those 3 and a lot of relationship advice. But the cherry on top are the 5 divorces between all of them. There you go. Misery loves company. All of them would be considered attractive, but neither of them has any serious male prospects. I met my wife in military reserve school, not in basic training, but in the specialty school which takes place after basic training. There was a month overlap in our training classes. We were training for the same job, but didn't have classes together. Dorms were co-ed, and our group shared the wing of the floor. Boys racked with boys, girls with girls. Co-ed, oh Lord. I arrived on base the Sunday evening before my training began. In the dorm's lobby, 2 black women approached me. One was my class leader, who'd been awaiting my arrival. She was a solid 7, maybe an 8. The other woman, who was also in a military work uniform, she wore no makeup, was having a bad hair day, and was still somewhere between pretty and gorgeous. She was 5'2", with a medium complexion near the color of milk chocolate. Think of a beautiful shaped Polynesian gal, then accentuate every curve. She's slender, voluptuous, athletic, and elegant all at the same time. She filled out a military work uniform without overpowering it. Yes, I saw this and ignored her with prejudice. A week later, my roommates commented on her. One said, I see her in my dreams every night. The other roommate said, me too. But that night in the lobby, I gave my class leader my complete attention, and I kept ignoring the other woman's attempt to get my attention and continued to ignore her repeated attempts to the entire week. Yeah, because as you guys are going to see, this guy is a chick magnet. He doesn't give a shit. And he's focused on all other things than these gals. And, of course, then that makes them chase after him. He says here, I'm black, 6 feet, with a linebacker's frame, and a complexion lighter than my wife. I'm one of those guys who gets female attention. There's no ego about it. For what I learned a long time ago, not to reciprocate. Female attention is an ever-present threat to everything you work for. Right there. Guy's almost 60 years old, but he just said right there, I'm going to repeat it again. Female attention is an ever-present threat to everything you've worked for. I'm sure you guys can connect the dots. It can ruin your career, relationships, and invite attacks on your personal safety. You don't have to do a thing, but significant others may give into super jealousy and turn to physical violence. I didn't win the genetic lottery. As evidence, I present my premature balding head and this gap in my front teeth. That balding thing always got me because my mom had hair down to her butt, and Dad had more hair than most women. At almost 60 years old, I can say being bald doesn't stop women. They flirt, sexually harass, and approach. Well, you know, a lot of women like bald guys. They instantly see it as an alpha, you know? And let's be honest here, you know, depending on your background, some people of different backgrounds can pull off the bald head more than others. And also depends on the shape of your head and if you got a square jaw, that type of thing. I tend to stay away from women because I know if anything is said, whether it's actually happened or was fabricated, the woman would not be held accountable and wouldn't suffer, and I would suffer the consequences. So I kept my words, my hands, and my eyes to myself. My wife is from a traditional working class family with a strong father figure. I am an outside child and the son of a super Tyrone. Wow. We got Chad and Tyrone, and we got Super Tyrone as this guy's dad. I say Super Tyrone because he was still cruising the neighborhood and catching 20-year-old girls in his late 50s. He was 6'3" with a slender frame and a lion's mane. I only met him 3 times, or a few times, and he was a horrible soul. I never ever wanted to be anything like him. Well, that's good. Well, you're a chick magnet like him, and you're not doing anything. Back to the dorm, my future wife and I eventually ended up talking in the evening, but it never got physical, as I refused to do anything which could screw up my world. She completed training 1 month before me and then left. We kept in touch. I kept complete training and relocated across the country. Eventually, I flew her to my location for a few days. I then moved cross country back home to deal with serious family issues. When all that was coming to an end, I made a plan to finish college and start my life with her in it. So I moved cross country again to the city that she lived. Smack! Should have made her come to you. Unless she was stationed there and you're going to be stationed there, however that works. But regardless, she should come to you. And I know you know that now. But fortunately, things worked out. Everything was going well. She lived at home and was working and being a reservist while going to college. I lived with relatives, was working, was a reservist, and went to college too. Then one day, she broke up with me. I didn't fight it. She then asked if we could be friends, and I said no. Good job. Never, ever, ever accept friendship. Only nice guy beta males accept friendship in the hopes that the girl will take them back. And in my opinion, a girl breaks up with you, hey, that's it. Adios. Either we're going to work this out or we're done. There's no friendship thing going on here. I got up, walked away, and got on with my life. Good for you. That's what you're supposed to do. And it drives them nuts. I didn't call, I didn't write or visit. Eventually, I found myself in another relationship. Of course you did. We served in the same reserve unit. It was smallish, yet big enough that I heard about her without having to see her. We had the same job, but we're on different teams. Months after she broke up with me, she called. I grilled her for the next few days. Then I ended the relationship and we started again. Somehow we end up on the same reserve team. Our shoestring wedding was almost 4 years to the date of that meeting. Well, I wouldn't have gotten back with her after she broke up with you, but that was your choice back then. You were a lot younger, and obviously things worked out. He says, I know you're slapping me to China and back, but a man must be direct, decisive, and clear. And as a man who grew up around young women who had my choice of women, the good ones leave a feeling others don't. Military cohabitation, even short-term, gives more of a window into the real person. Reserve duty was also a kind of cohabitation. One important thing is that she moved straight from her mom and dad's house to our place. Well, that's the old school way of doing things. Oh yeah, and by the way, smack for getting married in the military. I'm a little off today. It's Friday. I'm eagerly awaiting the weekend. But again, it worked out for you. So we hope. In public and private, we are playful. Intimacy has never been a problem. We watched several other women in our families experience successful failures with men. They've been looking for Mr. Right for 3 decades, never realizing that they are Mrs. Wrong. I suspect their younger years, where they were likely experimenting with different men, looking for what they like, wrecked their ability to select men, let alone relate to a man in a normal relationship. So let me guess, a lot of these gals in your family are the same ones that hate on your wife because she is traditional and feminine and obviously treats you really well and, all, and is happy and you worked out. They want to sabotage everything. As Al Bundy once said, never try to understand women. Women understand women and they hate each other. In my marriage, there were a few tense moments, but nothing that carried depth. Once along our journey, she talked about getting a divorce. I said, okay, and told her she had to figure out what she was going to tell the kids. They know there's no abuse, no yelling, no drugs or alcohol. I come home on time every day. You haven't had a job in decades, but are living in the brand new $500,000 house you once had built. You selected it and designed it, and you're driving an Audi. This is the same girl that out of nowhere broke up with you when you were younger and you gave her a second chance. Now you're giving her a great marriage and she's babbling on about divorce. I wouldn't be tolerating this shit. He says the divorce papers never came. Life went on like the subject was never discussed. Now, I'm sure that was a big giant shit test to see if you'll cry and beg and plead and act like a bitch. But regardless, not cool. If there are secrets to a lasting relationship, it's selection. No transparency, flexibility, and self-work. The most important decisions you'll ever make is who you spend your time with, and that includes who you spend your life with. I couldn't agree more. That's why I say to all the guys here, watch who your girl hangs out with. And you as well, be selective who you choose to hang out with because they're going to rub off on you whether they realize it or not. It has little to do with looks and everything to do with behavior. However, selecting the right person does nothing if you're going to be the wrong person. Having no secrets and not playing games is vital. You're going to have to adapt to curves life throws at you without breaking. And you got to do the self-work, whatever that may be. Yes, life is going to throw you a lot of curveballs, gentlemen, especially you young guys who are just starting off in the world. And you got to be prepared, and you got to do the self-work. You're always a work in progress, improving yourself and adapting to change. I make no apologies for being super selective. It's my life, my time, my kids, and our future. Select whomever you choose. If that selection isn't based on behavior, the person who is the light of your life will become the anchor, and holding on to them will drown you. Again, behavior and character are the dominant elements of making the right selection. I can't completely wrap my mind around online dating because it almost feels like shopping. Yes, I'm from another time, but I meet people in real life. One of my relatives met, married, and divorced a guy she met online. And I once read about another relative's online profile and found it disturbing. What she'd written was that she wanted people to think of her and not who she was in real life. Doesn't surprise me. My wife stood out because she tries hard, cares for people, and believes in self-improvement. Well, that's good, except for her, that little I want a divorce shit that she pulled. I witnessed this 4 years before we tied the knot. I never tried to control her or even put boundaries on her. She does that herself, and she doesn't play games like many women. Well, I think that whole I want a divorce thing was definitely a shit test. And I'm sure you definitely are ahead of the game, my man, but I'm sure there have been things she's pulled and you probably didn't realize some bullshit she was probably to test you or something like that. There's no way I've been married for 30 years and she hasn't thrown shit tests your way on occasion. It says, remember this. Personal behavior is a person's operating system. Operating systems never change. That she's nice to look at and never drove my decision. No disrespect to pretty women, but they're everywhere. The right woman for you will always behave in a manner that is best for you, for her, and your relationship. Choose wisely. That's why a lot of guys say they would take a gal that would, in the looks and body type department, were 6s and 7s, but that had fantastic personalities, were loyal, fun to be around, minimal drama. You get the point. Versus gals that were 9s and 10s that were stunning physically, but were 1s and 2s in all the other areas. He says here, take care of yourself physically. Try not to focus on weight. Your weight will take care of itself as long as it's doing the right things on a daily basis. I do dailies. I also done a 2 days and 3 days. 2 days and 3 days. The foundation of my activity is 80-85% in interval sprinting, cardio, abs, heavy leg press, and bodyweight exercises. The rest is lightweight to stay balanced. Every day is a big leg day and an ab day. Well, you shouldn't train your legs every day. You shouldn't do every body part every day. You got to have some rest time to help the things grow and all that. And especially if you're close to 60, be careful what you do. But that's great you're getting exercise all the time. Most guys stop exercising, honestly, once they get out of college, and certainly when they get married. When I'm doing dailies, why do I need to touch a scale? My weight and shape take care of itself. I was getting off active duty one time and having my physical. The doctor said I was obese because of the 230 pounds. I told him I wasn't. I stood up and said I'm 6 feet tall with damn near a 34-inch waist. Nothing about me is obese. He finally looked at me and had no words. Right, because you were solid. And the thing is, like, I'm sure that he was going by the BMI, body mass index, which is complete nonsense. It just takes weight and height and gender, and that's it. You know, I've gone to the doctors for annual physicals. And I remember one time I went in there, it was a different doctor, and I'm 5'10", and this was when I was in martial arts. I was a solid 185 with a 31, 32-inch waist. I got a small waist. And technically, according to the BMI, I'm overweight. And I'm like, this is the biggest bunch of fucking bullshit ever. I had a 4-pack then. This is the peak of martial arts. So I believe it's 6 feet, 235, 230. You said you were very solid, but built like a linebacker. But that's just how these scales work. It's a one-size-fit-all government type of, you get the point. It says here, once my weight dropped to 215 pounds because of a life-threatening medical issue, people said I looked sick. But I was still over my maximum military weight of 202 pounds. I would have to do unhealthy things to try to get down to 202. So if I'm eating right and doing dailies, what good is if I look at a scale and worry about my weight? Fuck the scale, do the work, and it works for you. I agree. Guys, it's not that hard to stay at a healthy weight. Just eat healthy. Don't eat healthy about 85% of the time. And do some weightlifting or some exercise 2 to 3 days a week. You're fine. And you can treat yourself to the occasional, trip to Burger King or some pizza or some beer, alcohol, whatever, or chocolate fucking cake. Just 85% of the time you're eating healthy. The problem is 85% of the time most people eat unhealthy. I believe in interval sprinting is magic. Yeah, or HIIT training. It seems like sprinting tells the body to self-sculpt quick, fast, and in a hurry. In other words, it makes the body create the best version of itself. It does this by making the body produce human growth hormone, HGH, and testosterone. These hormones will amplify everything else you are doing. 1 week of my workouts were the equivalent of 1 to 4 months of what other people were doing. Yeah, that's why I love boxing training and kickboxing training, because it's a lot of super fast, even pace, super fast, HIIT training. But doing bag work is fantastic. Never ask for intimacy. Seduce your woman every day. Don't seduce her for sex. I start sexy and fun banter as early as getting out of bed in the morning. A little sexy touching and talk during the day keeps it lighthearted and fun. Women like to flirt even if they're freaking 60 years old or 50 years old, whatever. 70, 80, a charming good-looking guy flirting with a woman doesn't stop. Nature imposed several cruelties on women. Women are highly attracted to men who may never want them. Yep. And they bond strongest to men who seem to use their bodies in a certain way. Women can never get enough of these men. Yep. I wish I was told that when I was about, 6 years old. Asking a woman what she wants in the bedroom can lead to some men into a trap. Women may find it difficult or impossible to verbalize their primal desires. Yeah, and if you're already asking her, she's already thinking, ew. She wants the guy that's going to take her. But, of course, handling that the right way, you know what I mean. Seduces her, then takes her. Remember, their number one bedroom fantasy is to be dominated by a male. What'd I just say? So at some point, throw the making love out of your mind and give her a good old fucking. Yeah, there's no making love. They want a fucking every time. Forget package size and the myth of premature thing. Turn yourself into a slow, stroking, pelvic grinding demon, doing her until the end of time. I'm not buying that whole size doesn't matter thing. That's a bunch of bullshit. Which means you're probably packing a lot, my friend. Work on your... Okay. He's going to get into some X-rated issues here. I'm going to skip over, but you get the point. In terms of tips of taking care of her in the bedroom so she takes care of you. You get the point. Blah, 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 blah. I'll skip this part. He says here, in other sessions, turn up the energy, power, and intensity. Outwork her and maintain a level of energy she can't keep up with. Do this respectfully. Leave her breathless. Never ever be ashamed to go back for thirds, fourths, and sometimes fifths. Okay, we get the point. You're a man with the physicality to dominate everything on this planet. The first thing you're supposed to do is dominate the gal. Her body, and respectfully, of course. Yeah, respectfully, of course. You gotta have permission. Be careful not to talk about this stuff like you did something. Better yet, don't talk about it at all. Every once in a while, hold eye contact with a dirty thought in your mind and remain silent. Get over the fact that women cheat more than men. I'm not saying my wife cheated. I've looked and never found evidence. Long before I got married, I had 1,000 reasons to believe what I said. The reasons kept piling up after the marriage. I've been flirted with, groped, and propositioned while my wife was a few feet away and in front of our children. Of course, because women can be ruthless after a guy they want. And they see a guy that's married and has a good-looking wife and the guy looks good and is charming. Oh, they want him more. And of course, they want to screw up what she has. It's almost as if some women can't help themselves. They can help themselves. They just choose not to. Anyone wanting to tell me that flirting doesn't always lead to cheating should be embarrassed to downplay women's flirting. Women who engage in infidelity start on the path with some form of flirting. That's why when you hear in the stories I cover sometimes, particularly in the other channels, when they talk about the wife or girlfriend doing harmless flirting, and I've said, maybe you heard this, that there's no such thing as harmless flirting. Women know exactly what they're doing with the flirting, being in your space close to you, being touchy-feely. If you're out with gals at a place where drinking is going on, the second they have any alcohol in them, if the girl is standing close to you, directly in front of you, and she constantly finds herself touching your shoulder, your arm, your chest, okay, believe me, she knows what she's doing. She's attracted to you. It is fucking obvious. They know what they're doing. That's why they also know when they want to get the fuck away from some guy, it's freaking them out. My experience with my wife's friends and our neighbors show that when a certain guy enters the picture, all he has to do is accept the woman's offer. It'll be the woman who started the whole thing. I've forgotten most of the crude ways women will let me know that they were available. All it takes is 2 sips of alcohol and women who had control begin to lose it. What I just said. There were memorable flirts. The sweet ones were the most intriguing and had a greater effect. I never accepted nor acted on a single one. Well, that's great of you, man. A lot of guys would cheat. Your dad, who you said is a scumbag, certainly would have been cheating left and right on his wife. Well, obviously, he did. I moved away from those neighbors, but this latest time a wife propositioned me was a couple of months ago. Her husband is an in-shape, younger, good guy with classic good looks and a full head of hair. Doesn't matter. She's into you. 3 numbers you might be interested in is 5, 10, and 20. 20 was the number of women in my boot camp company. 10 is the number of women in boot camp who competed for my attention and or proclaimed they were going to have me. And 5 is the number of who quietly flirted. I did end up spending time with one person during our 36-hour off-base pass. When we returned from the pass, the woman of my choice and I had been given a nickname by the other recruits and teased. Even the drill instructor got in on the tease. I wasn't married. I later found out she was married and they had a kid. Of course, the woman coming on, you had a kid and was married. He says, women act like men are the cheaters. Answers to a few basic questions may reveal a different reality. Which gender always brings up cheating? Which gender makes excuses for cheating? Which gender brags about how much better their gender cheats? Which gender is likely to end a loving relationship in order to sleep around? All very warranted questions, and we all know the answer to those. And yet the narrative is always the guys that do the cheating. The movies show that. The music says that. The media says that. You get the point. This letter has taken longer than I thought, but that's okay. If I write it again, it'll be shorter. Maybe I'll tell about the exotic South Pacific Islander who was on a campaign to break up my marriage. Or maybe about a woman who completely destroyed a good guy's life. She baby-trapped him, causing him to drop out of college his senior year. The baby wasn't his, and eventually she left him for a better dude who completed college. Or maybe I can tell a little about living with 5 college women. I want to hear your story about living with 5 college women. You get around enough. If you guys, I'm sure you've heard, this is a little intermission here before I wrap this up. I'm sure you guys have heard complaints over the years. Started really around 2016 when you-know-who was the current president. You know who, and I don't mean Voldemort, although a lot of people think he's Voldemort. Talking about that locker room talk, guys in the locker room talk. Here's a newsflash. You get a bunch of girls together, let me tell you, they can definitely give guys with their locker room talk a run for their money. I have heard girls say some of the nastiest shit you wouldn't believe, the dirtiest, most inappropriate shit known to man. when they all get together and have some alcohol in them. So I don't want to hear about this men with locker room talk. Nonsense. Women are just as much of gossiping. And I guarantee you guys, every guy out there that's had a girlfriend or has a girlfriend or wife, particularly girlfriends, that at least one of her girlfriends knows exactly how big your package is, how long it takes you to finish your business, what you're like in the sack, have you ever given her an O, how often you give her an O, every last fucking detail. I guarantee you at least one other girl knows this, or many know. And since girls can't keep secret, then that girl tells other people and so on and so forth. And you get them all together gossiping and comparing war stories. Good Lord. Anyhow, I'll end this by referring to my boot camp days and how my drill instructor prepared recruits for spousal infidelity. In boot camp, you go everywhere by marching in formation to cadence. Many cadences were odes to women cheating on their military husbands. By marching, the drill instructor would say a line of cadence, then the company would repeat it. So in boot camp, I took thousands of steps and sang thousands of words about serving my country while my girlfriend or wife was going to be in the house in bed with another man. At the end of boot camp, I finally got phone privileges. So after hiking around base to get quarters, then hiking back across base to the payphone, I finally called my then fiancee. After berating me for not previously calling, she slipped for a fraction of a second and called me someone else's name. There was never a flame, fire, or spark after that. I pulled away and resisted every attempt she made to be with me, and I thank the heavens for her slip-up. And there you go. The cheating while you're in the military. Now, this is obviously a fiance. His now wife broke up with him back then, which I would have gotten back with her, but he did. And then he got engaged to another gal, and she was cheating on him. So all the things they say in the boot camp and the stories about getting married in the military and all that, be careful. He got lucky with his current wife, and I'm glad she's great to you. And as far as you know, there's no cheating going on. She's traditional, all that. But she does obviously test you from time to time. Back to that whole I'm going to divorce bullshit you mentioned years ago. I wouldn't tolerate that crap, but obviously you handle it right. Anyhow, bro, good story here. Good. I love hearing these stories of the wisdom of the guys that are older, because you're not old, you're just older. You're almost 60, so there's still a 5 in front of you, a number there. And your life experience to show you the same shit that's going on now happened decades ago. And if I could get a time travel, if Leonardo da Vinci built a time machine and traveled right here in the parking lot, I'm sure Leonardo da Vinci would tell me some things that were going on back then. But then again, I think they said Leonardo was gay, but I'm sure he had straight friends that could tell him that the ladies were the same way back then, 500 years ago, than they are today. But anyhow, that's until Leonardo da Vinci or Isaac Newton invented a time machine and show up in the parking lot here where I am, I can't confirm that. But guess what? Men are men, women are women, wherever you are in the country, wherever you are in the world, what your religion is, your culture, or going back hundreds of years or thousands of years, the same fucking thing. So I like these stories from the guys of a different generation sharing their war stories. All right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And guys, you got a great story like to share, email me. strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. Just give me some time to get to it, and I will when I can get the chance. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.